Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and today we are doing the review on the CMB Knives Prowler. Now, thank you to CMB for sending me this knife for review. Also, shout out to Jelly Jerry, the knife designer, which I do like Jelly Jerry's designs. I've had them. Technically, I own one right now, but I don't know if it'll ever make it back to me. But yeah. He's definitely made some designs that I absolutely love. Now, this design, this knife design, it's the kind of design you either love or hate. That's, you know, just to put it out there. That, everybody knows that. I mean, it has a lot of sharp lines. Some people love sharp lines. Some people don't. So it's either your style or it's absolutely not. One of the two. Now, it does have a clip point, I would say kind of a clip point Bowie style blade shape. You know, it does have this extra hump right here. And so, it's basically a clip point, but the tip does go up a little bit higher than the center of the pivot. So it kind of Persians up. It does have like a hand satin finish, as you can see, because you can see the finish is going this direction instead of this direction. Very well done. And it is M390 steel. Now, there is a couple different versions of this. There's a plain titanium version, this version, and then you can also get the Timascus package, which I think is like $300, and you can get the Timascus clip, backspacer, and pivot collar. And I think you can get it for $300. You can get the knife and then all the parts. Now, just for this knife, it's $200, I believe, for the just like this setup without the Timascus. Now, getting into this knife, looking at the titanium finish, you can see it's got like this finish going back and forth, which kind of gives it like an antique look. It's got the ano, the bronze, the ano, and it's like darker in areas, and it really has a really cool antique look to it that I really appreciate. It looks really nice. That beautiful pivot collar popping. Like I said, all the little dark corners, like it looks like shadowing. It's really nice. And the ergos on this handle, they're decent. You know, being the type of handle it is, it's not a neutral grip handle. And when I say a neutral grip, I'm basically saying like a straightforward grip where you can grip it anywhere and it's going to be comfortable. This is more of a specific grip handle where you have to grip it one way. I'm not saying you can't turn it and grip it in other ways. I'm just saying when you're carrying it forward like this, you're positioned in one grip. Your forward finger here, thumb here, or not, but and then this tapers like your hand. Your hand gets smaller on that end when you make a fist, and so does the knife, which it's relatively comfortable. I mean, it's not no Benchmade Griptilian or anything, but for considering the type of handle it is, considering it has a swoop here, it's got a groove here, goes down here, it's got this little chamfer, that little, since it has all that, it's relatively comfortable. It does rest in the hand pretty good. Now, going to when cutting with it, in this grip, it works really good in cutting. And the blade passing through materials, it works. It's not great, but it works pretty good. It's 20 thousandths behind the edge, and being 20 thousandths behind the edge, that's not a bad thickness. Now, I would rather it start off a little thinner, because, over sharpening and everything, with a flat ground blade like this is, I'd like to see it a little thinner. I'd like to see a little bit better geometry, but right now we're not getting to the bad. We'll go into the bad later, but in all reality, it's good. It's not bad. It's not great. It's, just good. So the geometry is okay, and it does cut fairly well. Cuts pretty good, passes through materials okay. Now the tip, oh yeah, I did bring it to work. I did use it at work. I used it all day at work, and I used it around the house. I did use it quite a bit for this review, and like I said, it does cut fairly well, and it works. It's not going to be the ultimate slicer or anything like that, but it works. Now the tip, you know, being that it is kind of a Persian style clip point blade, it is acute. It's not going to be something you're going to want to pry with, but even though it is higher than the center of the pivot, you still can get to it very easily without raising your hand up too high. You can get to it fairly easy and still have a lot of leverage pointing down and pulling back through the cut. So the utility cuts are great with it. It works great. It's definitely going to be something that works good in puncturing or utility cuts or anything like that. It's going to do great. Now you're going to want to be careful with it, not to break it or chip it, drop it, or anything like that. But as long as you're using it the way the blade shape is designed, the blade shape and grind is designed, you'll be just fine and it works great. Now with sharpening it, we're going to go into sharpening here in just a little bit, but you do want to be careful with your angle on this knife because of the tip. But we'll talk about that when we get to sharpening. The action. So the action is pretty good. You do have jimping on the flipper tab. The flipper tab's a little pokey for the push button, but if you just light switch it, I feel like it's more designed for... Then I hit my damn thing. I think it's more designed for the light switch. And in that case, it's you know, pretty decent. And the jimping is grippy, so it works good. The detent is nice and strong. No detent lash, nothing like that. It's rock solid. Like I said, the detent is strong. Now, if you do like the in-between, where you kind of just grab it like this and pull down, it does work, but it is a little bit sharp, just a little bit. Now it's not like, you know, the push button, but it's a little bit sharp, but you can also just go right on top and pull down, and it definitely fires with authority. It's a very, very, you know, reliable flipper every time. And you do get used to the way the flipper tab's pokiness is, I should say, because it's not really that bad. No landing zone, but it doesn't really need one. It's already comfortable when you flip it. So in all reality, it does not need a landing zone. The scales are already soft enough for the landing zone. Lock bar, it does have a lock bar insert, as you can see there, and an over travel stop, so you're not going to unspring the lock bar, but it's easy to access, and the detent is nice and early. See where it's at right there? No detent ramp, but it doesn't need it because it's always past the detent when you unlock it. I haven't had a point where I've hit it. Now we'll go into the reverse flicking in just a second, but when you unlock it, though, it's always past the detent, and it's extremely smooth on the way down. Not quite fall shut action, but it's very drop shutty. And if you put any effort into, you know, encouraging it to drop, it'll just slap shut. So if you don't and you just let it drop freely, it's very, very, very smooth. Now the reverse flicking action. Now the hole is slightly chamfered, which I like, because you want the hole to be sharp, because you don't want to slip out of it. And in this case, it is sharp in a way that works good for the reverse flick or the thumb flick. The only small problem is that it is kind of a small hole, you know, for your finger. I'm kind of just jamming my finger right there, and it could be bigger or lower down, because it's like I want it to be right here, but it's up here. So you do have to position your finger up higher than feels normal. Same thing with the thumb. I feel like I'm jamming my thumb into it, but it works. It does work. But it would be nicer if it was just brought down a little bit. You know, obviously they didn't, and it's done, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's a little weird putting my finger up that high for a reverse flick. Not a big deal, though, and I did, you know, you get used to it, and it works just fine. So you can also slow roll it if you keep your finger off that lock bar. It is on ceramic bearings, ceramic caged bearings. Like I said, they're very smooth. The stop pin is a good size. And the close part, this stop pin also acts as the closing stop pin, which it's in a good position because it's not in the way over here. It actually locks up down here on the closed position. Now, obviously on the open position, we have a shouldering lockup. Sorry about my camera. So nice lockup. Very, very solid. Extremely solid and extremely smooth. Well centered. No detent lash. Nothing like that. Now, getting into the clip. Then we'll get into sharpening and then the bad things. So the clip works great. It works so good in and out of the pocket. It slips in, slips out. Great. And I'm happy to see that. It is a little bit lighter tension of a clip, but I don't care. I like that because I'm so sick of titanium milled clips chewing my pockets up that this is a joy to put in and out of the pocket. I like this clip a lot. It works great, super smooth in and out of the pocket, and very, very well done. I forgot to mention the jimping on the spine right here is nice and grippy, and it does offer you a little bit of a ramp to put leverage into cuts. I forgot to mention that, you know, in this like pinch grip right here. Now, sharpening it. Now, it felt good on the stone. It felt fine on the stone. Now, we're going to get into something else here when we get into the bad, but just purely sharpening, it did feel okay. I didn't go up to a very high grit. I kept it a little lower, and I'll explain why here in a minute, but I kept it around 1,000 grit, 1,200 grit, something like that. And it did take a very sharp edge. It is very sharp, but it did come out good, and I'm happy with how it felt on the stone and how it sharpened up. Sharpened up just fine. Now, you do want to be careful when... Damn it. Let me see if I can't just zoom in a little bit. So you do want to be a little careful when sharpening this. You don't want to lay the angle back too far. I put this one at about between 18 and 20 degrees because I don't want to make the tip too dainty. If you lay the angle back too far, you see how is that a chip tip already? Yep, I already chipped the tip. So that would be the problem. So the tip is already chipped just a little bit. It's still effective. It's still fine. But, you know, if you lay back the angle too far, this tip will become fragile. It's just elongated so much, and it's not thin. I mean, it's relatively thick in a way, but you know, it just is what it is. It's a pokey tip. So being a pokey tip, it's going to be susceptible to that. So if you put the appropriate angle, which I think this angle is just fine for it. I'm saying if you lay it back to like 15 degrees is what I'm talking about. If you lay back at all. And then in that case, the edge bevel will get massive if you do that. In this case, you know, it's a decent size angle, decent size edge bevel for this knife. And it looks good and it feels good and it's extremely sharp. Now, getting into the bad things. So, one bad thing is that T6s, I'd rather see T8s. I don't like T6s, especially for, you know, a $200 titanium frame lock knife. I'd rather see T8s. Not that big of a deal, but I'd like to see it. Next thing, this one's really not that bad. It's okay. The plunge grind, I hit the plunge grind a little bit with my stone right there. The plunge grind starts here and ends right here. Now, I would rather see the plunge grind end all the way back here instead of doing a tapering plunge grind all the way to right here. You know, if I do chip the tip off and I need to remove more steel, now I'm just going, every time I sharpen it moves up this little ramp, and eventually it's going to create a smile. Now, I don't care that eventually it's going to do it, and it's just fine right now. It still has enough steel to take a couple sharpenings before I really hit the plunge grind, but I like seeing a good amount of steel it's a knife, it's a tool, it's made to be used and sharpened. So I like seeing a lot of life that I can remove before I hit the plunge grind. And in this case, it's okay, but I'd like to see it a little bit better, but it's okay. Now, the most significant, I did say this flipper tab is a little pokey. And, I talked about the hole where, it feels like it's up a little high, not that big of a deal. The one significant issue, in my opinion, is this. Now, let's look at the pouch. Pouch is very nice. I do like the pouch. They offer a very nice knife wipe, great knife wipe. But look at this card. So we have the model, Jelly Jerry design, M390 steel, 6AL4V titanium, very nice. Now we get to hardness. So at 59 to 60 HRC, that is at the bottom of what is okay. It's actually a little low. Now we'd like to see M390 about 61 to 60. In all reality, we'd like to see it 61 to 63. I mean, we really want it 62 to 64, but we're okay with it at 61 to 62. That's where it's going to get M390 performance. Under 61, when you get to 60, that's the bottom of the barrel of where we're okay with M390. If you get under 60 to 59, now you're talking it's soft for M390. So now let me just say, a lot of companies are doing this. I'm not saying these guys are doing it and everybody else is running it the hardness I just said. No, probably the overwhelming majority are running it about this HRC. That's, and we accept it from a lot of companies, a lot of very sought out companies. So I'd rather see that brought up a point or two. I'd love to see it say 61 to 62 HRC. And now, but it almost makes me wonder if they're labeling it 59 to 60. If it was tested, would it be 59 to 60? I don't know, but I already know that just from their advertisements, it's soft for what we'd want to see. If it's 60, then it's at the bottom of the barrel of what we want to see. But it'd be better if it was brought up a little bit, instead of running it a little soft. Like I was saying, sharpening it, it felt okay. It didn't feel bad. It sharpened up just fine. But I did not put a polish on it because I wasn't, it's most likely not going to. And, I feeling it from sharpening it, it's probably not going to take a great polish. It'll take a good polish. It'll look good. It'll be very sharp, but it's not going to have that real bite that you'd like to see from a well heat treated M390. But I mean, it would still be fine. And I am giving this away to one of the patron members. And if that's what they want, was a polished edge, I would absolutely do it. This grit that I have on it, it's very, very sharp. I mean, incredibly sharp. So, and this is the grit that I think that it would do best at for, considering, it's HRC and everything else. Now, the edge before I sharpened it, it did seem like it went dull fairly quickly. Now, it was a factory edge. It could have been burnt. Factory edges usually don't last very long. It just depends. So that doesn't mean anything from the factory edge. And now it has a new edge. It seems like it's holding up pretty good. I haven't used it a lot since I put the new edge on there, but I've used it a little bit and it's still holding its sharpness. Now, like I said, I haven't used it a ton though. But all in all, like I was saying before, I do think that this is I'm specifically talking to Jelly Jerry right now when I'm saying this. Jelly Jerry's made incredible designs. He has a few out there that I really, really like. Now, one like this, in my opinion, is risky. This is a risky design. And I'm saying that because it's not going to fit everybody's, there's knife designs that everybody loves, right? It fits everybody's categories. Then there's knife designs that specifically only are wanted by certain people. And that's the way this is. And that's why I say it's risky. I think that, if it was, if some of his other designs, I think are people everybody loves, right? They look at it and they can see that's an awesome design. This one, like I said, if you're either going to love it or hate it. So I think that's a little risky on his end of designing a knife like this. And one more thing, I do think that at $250, that price is a little high. And I found them between like the 230s up to like 260 or something like that, but right there in the 250 range. There's a lot of knives on the market for the 250 range, and I'm not saying that this isn't very good quality. I'm saying that there are a lot of great quality knives in the $250 price range. And from a company that doesn't have a massive reputation yet, it's a hard pill to swallow for people that haven't experienced them yet, and they haven't been out there long enough for people to really see what they're coming with, and just everything about the company and everything that their knives bring. So maybe they're going to sell like hotcakes, and I hope they do. And I'm not saying they're not great quality. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I think 250 is a little high when you haven't sold a ton of knives in that price range yet, and you don't have a large catalog of knives in the $250 range, or in the $200 range. So they do sell these with the Damascus package, which I do think is awesome, for around $350, which is cool. That's really cool. But at $250, there's just so many knives these days that are such good quality. You're putting this in the price range with a lot of other knives. So, it is a bias thing. So now, if you do love it and it is your style, it is very well done. The titanium, the finish, the grind, it's, everything's very, very well done. Now, I do wish it was thinned out a little bit more, because let's be real, this is not a hard use knife. Even just looking at the way the shape is all the way to the tip, the type of grind it is, it's not a hard use knife. The ergos tell you it's not a hard use knife. A lot of things tell you it's not a hard use knife. So it shouldn't have a hard use knife grind, which it's not like a crazy hard use grind, but it's also not a slicing grind. It's kind of right there in the middle. So I would like to see it thinned out just a little bit more. So one, you can get more sharpenings out of it before it gets thick. And two, so it cuts just a little bit better. It doesn't cut bad. I'm just saying I would prefer, from my preference of design and shape and everything like this just thinned out just a little bit in here. Just a little bit. But all in all, it is a cool knife. It's a great knife. Like I said, it is very well done. And I'm pretty sure this is a hand satin finish. But CMB knives so far, from what I see, they make good quality knives. And yeah, I'm happy that I got to check this out and check out one of their designs. I'd like to check out more of them. But yeah, there you guys go. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.